All right, today you'll be a 10th grade biology class, CP, and we expect you to be in your best behavior, your college prep students. We're aware that there's several English language learners in this class, so we'll try to work with everyone. If you have any questions during our presentation, don't hesitate to ask questions at any time. Just raise your hand and we'll get to you.
All right, what Mr. Luke is doing right now is he's handing out a test tube. Please do not drink this liquid, okay? Just have it in your hand. Don't mix it up with anything. Don't spill it on your precious notes that you're taking down. Try not to whip it, you know, because you might start thinking a little bit differently. You just hold it in your hand. Look at it, but don't drink it. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to do an activity today, okay? So I need you guys to be paying attention. Otherwise, you're going to miss a step and you're going to do something wrong. And so we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. After we do the activity, then we're going to talk about what the activity was about and so forth, okay? So just hang in there, just follow procedures, and then you'll see what we're going to do. All right. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to get your test tube, clear test tube, and what I'm going to ask you guys to do is you're going to be moving around. So I'm going to need you guys to put bags and things that are bulky underneath your desk. Otherwise, you're going to have people falling all over the place, okay? So we need you to put any materials that people can trip over, put them underneath your desk. And then the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is to stand up, and you're going to need to push in your chair, okay, so that you have enough room to be walking around. Next thing you're going to do is you are going to mix, and we're all friends here, right? So we're going to mix our liquids and share our liquids with each other. It's going to be great. Mr. Whippy is demonstrating how you're going to do this. Try not to spill. Don't do it really fast, okay? Make sure you're careful. Once you mix it together, just kind of get your amount back. Just like he's demonstrating here. Okay? And that's all you're going to be doing. So go ahead, look at the person next to you, and go ahead and switch liquids with them.
I got it on my hand. What do I do?
You got it on your hand?
Yeah. Do I need to go wash my hands?
No, you're okay. Now you need to find someone else to switch with. So go ahead and find someone else to switch with and go ahead and swap your liquids together. Okay, I need everybody to be looking at me when you're finished, okay? Look at me when you're finished. That'll let me know that you're done. If I see you looking somewhere else, I'm going to assume you're still doing this, and we're going to say, okay, find another person. Go ahead and find another different person. Yeah, I do good.
Third person, the third time you mixed.
Is that right?
You guys think you can do this 2 more times, a little bit faster and more efficiently? Efficiently means without spilling, doing it correctly? Okay, let's go ahead and do that 2 more times. Then. 2 other different people, guys. 2 other different people. All right, guys, as soon as you're finished, I need you to go back to your seats. Go ahead and go back to your seats so we can move on to the next step. As you're sitting down, Mr. Whippy's going to come around and he's going to drop what we call a solution identifier, okay? So if something happens to your liquid, now normally in a class we would have the students writing down the procedures and writing down what's going on. So as Mr. Whippy is putting the solution into the tubes, if a change occurs, whether it's color or temperature or whatever, they would be writing it down on their notebook, okay? So he's going to come around, he's going to drop a little bit of solution into your test tube. Just take a look at what happens if something happens, and if not, then, you know, you can observe well. And then I'll explain what that means later, okay? Actually, what you guys are doing right now is you are testing for AIDS, okay? And if your solution turns pink, you have contracted the HIV virus.
I didn't mix with them, let's see.
Alright. That's right.
Well, what happened is everybody in here got a vial with nothing but water in it except for one person. Just one.
Who was that?
Right here.
Oh,
Patient 0.
Doctor's dead.
This is patient 0. Everybody who mixed fluids, we'll say blood, with patient 0, and then anybody that she mixed fluids with and they mixed fluids with, they now have AIDS. And if you look around the room, the majority of people in here, because it's a small, little, tiny population in here, most people have it. But dude, who doesn't have it? The married couple didn't get it. Sandy, she never mixed with anyone. She didn't get it. Now, this could have worked a lot of different ways. What if I had given it to one of them? Then they would be the only ones in here that have it. What if I had only given it to Sandy? She would be the only one in here that have it. So this is a really good way of showing them how it spreads, because it can spread that fast. It doesn't have to just be AIDS. It can be any blood-borne pathogen, any saliva-borne pathogen, and you can see how quickly. Gosh, you can even take this further out and say it's an idea. Ideas spread that quickly too. Talk to somebody, they talk to somebody. Gossip. Yeah. So that's our anticipatory set.
Just so that to point out, now if this was a higher level class, like an honors, well, another extension we could do was probably have them figure out who patient 0 is, and so they have to write down who they mixed with, and then have to, maybe do collaborative groups, try to identify who was the first person to have it, and then that could go into further discussion and so forth.
And it's a good exercise. It's a lot of fun to do, but it does take time. Generally your anticipatory set doesn't take 3/4 of the class period, but sometimes they do. Maybe you're going to do this on the lab day. Maybe you're going to have them setting these things up for you so you don't have to, and then it takes the whole period, and then clean up and all that. So this whole anticipatory set could take a whole class period. I'm going to expand it a little bit more because AIDS is an important part of our society. And it wasn't always that way, but it definitely is now.
You're writing these notes down for now format, because you're going to need these notes for one, the quiz on Friday, and secondly, if we have questions afterwards, you're going to need those notes to answer those questions, okay? So make sure that you're writing the stuff down that we talked about. And if you have any questions, again, you need to raise your hand so that we can stop and address your questions.
And by this point, you should already know what Cornell notes are, because the first couple of days, we decided the first 3 days we're going to just drill it to the students. At first, it's a pain for them because they're not used to it. But after a while, it becomes kind of like a routine, and they use it to study for quizzes. And sometimes we might even throw an open note quiz. So they'll not only use it for your class, but they'll use it for their other classes, the exciting classes like foreign language, Spanish, and all those interesting classes. So that's that on Cornell Notes.
And as I go through the notes here, you're going to see that this format works really well with Cornell Notes because it's just line by line. Preventing no blood-to-blood contact, no intercourse. I know, it's drastic, but it happens. Any intercourse carries risk, even protected sex. Condoms break, or you forget to put them on at the right time. So yeah, monogamy is a two-way street. Okay, I'm not going to have sex with anybody but you, but who are you going to have sex with? I don't know, I can't be with you 24 hours a day. Probably wouldn't want to. If sexual contact must take place, then of course there's guidelines. Use protection, put 2 condoms on. 3, hey, you can't be too careful. Monogamy, if you trust that person, you're probably crazy, but hopefully long-term relationship you can trust them, and that's a big deal. But again, what were they doing 9 years ago? You may not want to know. And of course, blood testing. If you're going to get into a relationship before you have sex, go down to the clinic and have blood tests done. It's simple and easy, and you can pretty much ensure that they don't have it unless they got it in the last 6 months or so. And then here's something I would end with, just to scare them. Do this on a Friday. Here's a guy, he's 36, and he's dying of AIDS. Here's some of the opportunistic infections. Here's a nice fungal mouth infection. And then here's a nice fungal infection of the skin.
We have our lesson plan here, and then we have on what standards we touched on. And of course, if this was a full day, what we would do is first of all have a standard up on the board and introduce it to the students, and maybe have some volunteers read it out. But if you go down, scroll down a little bit, right here, the one in blue touches on R4, R2, and we start up even with R3 up here. It says teacher conducts whole to part to whole instruction. The big picture first, which was the spread of the disease. And then parts, immune system. Well, that's our presentation.
Go ahead and summarize your notes now, Bobby.
Yeah, tomorrow.